You got to ask yourself, in theory, if I can make $500 every single day, there really is no reason that I can't make $5,000 every single day, right? Right? You would think it would be that simple, but it's a little bit more difficult. We're gonna talk about everything that goes into going from 500 to 5,000 a day and what my overall plan is on how I'm going to do it and what I'm focused on and the rules that I need to have and everything like that right here in this video. So make sure you guys stay tuned. What's going on, guys? So I get a lot of questions from people. They're like, well, you know, if you can make $500 every single day, why don't you just make $5,000? Why not just make $20,000? Why settle for $500? Why quit with $500 in profit when you can keep making more money? The problem here is not so much that I don't want to make more money. I would love to make $5,000 every day. That would be just delightful. But the problem is it seems a lot easier than it actually is for a couple different reasons. Now, the biggest reason is going to be just overall emotion. If you're trading with larger size, you know, you're making $500 a day. Normally, when you start trading with larger size, when you're aiming to make $5,000 to $10,000 a day, you might have some, you know, 2,000 to 3,000 drawdowns. You might have a $5,000 loss day because when you're aiming for the fences, when you're trying to make tons of money, there's also just as much of a chance that you might lose a lot of money. So trading with smaller size, trading with a smaller target in general will normally minimize your risk because you're not sizing up to a point that if you do have a loss, you know, you're not going to walk away with a $5,000 loss. When your targets are reasonable, when your overall profit and loss targets are within your means, working and you get into a groove and you're like, hey, this is fun. I'm making $500 a day. Great. When you get into that groove, your emotions start to relax. You're able to hold through certain drawdowns. You're able to see when certain setups arise and you're able to take trades. The minute that I go from making $500 a day to now trying to make $5,000, instead of only buying 5 contracts, now I've got to buy 20 to 30 contracts. That makes it a totally different ball game. It makes it harder to get out like you normally would with smaller size. So this also would apply for stocks as well. Easy to sell 1,000 shares when it's at, you know, $3 and there's a little bit of resistance. It's easy to sell those 1,000 shares. But the problem is, if I try to get 10,000, you know, 20,000 shares, and I try to sell those 10,000 shares at the same place that I normally would sell, you know, 1,000 shares, it's a totally different ball game. Totally different ball game, because at that point, I might only get filled 1,000 shares or maybe 2,000. It's going to be much more difficult to get filled with those larger plays. The great thing about trading futures that I've kind of started to work on and seeing is if I can become consistent, super consistent with the micros, which are 1/10 the size of the E-minis, if I can become, you know, emotionally capable and stable to be able to go through the micro E-mini moves, you know, with 3 to 5 contracts. So, you know, normally my biggest losses are around $200, $300, and then my green days are, you know, anywhere from $500 to $800 in profit, sometimes more. But in general, if I'm able to see these patterns, see these setups, take the profit, enter and exit trades consistently and make money with the micro E-minis, the way I look at it is that one day I just need to start trading the normal size contracts. If I'm trading the E-minis, not the micro E-minis, that $500 day would now be a $5,000 day. And I really did not have to change anything. I don't have to really change my sizing. I don't have to change anything other than the fact that I'm just now going from the micro E-minis to the actual E-minis. So it's very motivating to think that all I need to do to go from making $500 a day to making $5,000 a day is to size up to the E-minis. Now, that does sound almost too simple, right? It's gonna bring a couple things though. It's gonna bring new emotions. It's gonna bring bigger drawdowns. It's gonna bring the idea of actually, you know, I've got to be very strict with my rules, with my stop losses. I've got to get out of trades quicker. I can't hold on to losers. I've got to take profit at the target. There is no room for error when I'm trading with the larger contracts. It's one thing to, you know, kind of fiddle and mess around with the micros. It's one thing to do that. But the minute that I step up to the actual E-minis, when I step up to the big boy E-minis, whatever you want to call it, when I step up to the full-size contracts, every every dollar move is $50. So if the position moves against me $10, if the contract drops down 10 handles, that's a $500 loss with only one contract. So let's say I'm trading 3 to 5 contracts, you can see how that loss can really build quickly. And I've got to ask myself, am I ready to go from making $500 a day to now risking $500 on every single contract that I'm trading? That's really the big difference here. And I know at some point I'm going to be ready, I'm going to do it, I'm going to make the switch. But I've also got to ask myself, if I'm making money, like if I'm making $500 to $800 a day trading the micros, and it doesn't add any stress to my life, it's really just kind of, I don't want to say easy, but it really is just not stressful because I'm not attached to like the money as much, because there's not, a massive amount of risk. I'm not risking thousands of dollars every day. I'm risking a few $100s. So that's kind of that introspection you have to ask yourself. The micro E-minis are great. I think they're the best tool that you can use to get into day trading. If you really want to start day trading, you don't have a lot of money, the micro E-minis are the best tool to do that. There's other future micro contracts as well you can trade, but the micro E-minis, I just feel like overall, the micros in general, trading the micros is a great way to start to trade. You're not going to make millions of dollars, but you're also not going to lose millions of dollars, because that 1/10 size contract, you can move through the market a little better than with the full size contracts. Like I said, you can kind of withstand a little bit more drawdowns. So, if I'm down $50 on a position, it's not going to mentally affect me. Where if I'm down, $500, it's going to be a little bit more emotional, a little bit more, oh, well, this is not good. And I might end up getting out for a loss that I normally wouldn't get out for a loss when I'm trading the micros. So I've got to ask myself, really, what's the big difference for me to step it up to the next level? Other than the emotion, the technical idea is still the same. Still, I can trade exactly the same. I can buy the dip, sell the rip, word for word how I do it with the micros. It's, step by step, the same exact plan that I'm doing with the micros, I can do it with the full size contracts as well. So we've got that figured out. We know that the emotion is going to be different. The actual technical part of it is going to be very similar. The third part, is there a third part other than the emotion and the technical part of it? I think the third part really just comes down to, really having a very strong conviction for your stop losses, for the idea that, hey, I cannot be stupid here. If I've got 2 or 3 contracts and I'm in the red, I can't just sit here and hold and hold and hold and hope and pray. There is no hoping and praying, because when you're trading with the larger contracts, a $20 to $30 handle move against you is going to blow up your account. So you've got to be strict. And that's one thing that I've got to really focus on with the micros right now, is I've got to make sure that when I'm ready to switch over to the full-size contracts, that the day that I switch, nothing changes emotionally, nothing changes with my overall plans. Technical analysis is still the same. So really, it just comes down to the emotion. Being able to withstand the drawdowns, but also one of the things here is that if I start trading the larger contracts, I need to force myself to trade very similar to the micros, where I'm looking for a 10 handle move. Now, I know that the reward's going to be much better. I can get away with only taking 3 handles and still walk away with $150 in profit off of each of those moves, which is still amazing. But if I really want to work out this strategy and I want this strategy to work, I got to make sure that my risk to my reward is always in check. Let's say I start trading the E-minis and I start taking profit early because I'm like, hey, I'm already up $200, up $300. Sweet, I'm taking profit early. But then if I'm taking profit on 3 handles, well, my stop loss better be, what, 1 handle, 2 handles? So I really got to remember that taking profit early can hurt me just as much as not taking profit. Taking profit in general. I always say that taking profit will never hurt you, but if you're trading with a 2-to-1 strategy, if you're trading with a strategy that says, hey, I'm correct 60 to 70% of the time, when those winners win, those winners better be double my losers. Because if I do have a loser, which it's going to happen, there's going to be a day where I'm going to lose on a trade, that next trade really needs to pay back that loser and also lock in some profit for the day. So that's one way that I'm really looking at right now, is just I need to make sure that if I do start trading the larger contracts, I force myself to trade the same exact mentality where I'm getting in, taking a little bit of profit along the way, but my overall target, is 10 handles or more on that last final contract. So the emotion is going to be one thing. The technical idea is the same. The rules, very similar. I just got to make sure that I'm very strict with the rules. Very strict is the key here. We got to be very strict with the rules. And I just need to follow the process. Follow the process. Continue to keep doing what I'm doing. Don't get stupid. Don't get greedy. Don't do really anything that I haven't been doing. Don't change the plan. If I have a plan, stick to the plan. Follow the plan, Patrick. Follow the plan, and we can get to the point. I'm not saying I'm going to get to $1 million a year, but I think it's very realistic to be doing $2,000 to $3,000, $5,000 a day trading the E-minis. All I need to do is just trade exactly like I'm trading now, but just trade with the bigger contract. So that's what I wanted to talk about, scaling up, how to go from making a little bit of money to a lot of money. At the end of the day, the idea is very much the same, how to buy, enter, exit trades, etc. If you really want to scale up, if you want to make more money, you need to have better process, you need to have, very strict rules, you need to have money management, you need to have that emotion management, you need to have all that stuff in check. And that's really going to come with, as well, having a massive amount of patience. Having patience with your emotions so that you're able to buy at a good area. You're going to feel good through the trade. You're going to feel confident in the trade. The problem is when we start trading and we start just buying and selling and getting all over the place and buying here, selling there, and just we're like not really waiting for that setup. At that point, that setup that we're entering, we're second guessing that setup from the minute that we enter the trade. And a lot of times you'll end up getting out for a small loss, you're end up getting for a small profit, and then the trade ends up, going against you, things like that. But you got to have tons of patience, and that's one thing that I'm really working on right now, patience in general with trading and just really just waiting for the right setup. So stepping it up, I'm going to get there. I'm going to get to that point. Right now, I'm just checking off all the boxes, making sure that when I do step it up, I'm ready for it. So there it is. We're scaling up, baby. Scaling up.